Okay. So what I'm going to go ahead and do and talk about in this video is setting up lighting in the scene. Just kind of talk about how maybe I kind of might approach this and what I'm doing with this particular scene. This may not be clear in some of the previous ones. So what I have here in the back is what we refer to as like an infinity table. It's just simply just a piece of geometry that's kind of folded in, and then when you take a clearer shot, like, or kind of pose your camera and then take a shot in like that, it kind of gives you the sense that there's like a infinite space behind the camera. So that's all it's really meant to do. You see that a lot in consumer commercials and things like that. They use infinity tables to shoot products. So I just gave that a basic Pixar shader right here, and just gave it a color. It's just like a light blue, just something that's kind of non-offensive and kind of works well with the product itself. Something else that I usually do will be I usually will shoot through with my resolution gate turned on. Resolution gate is going to be this button right here. When you click it, you'll see it kind of changes the camera angle a little bit, or at least what's in focus. Basically what it's doing is anything that's within this rectangle, it will be rendered. It's the proper resolution, aspect ratio. So anything that appears in this is going to be rendered in the viewport, okay? Another thing I like to do is when I am setting up shots that I'm going to be copying or saving out of RenderMan, what I usually will do is I'll set up my color space from linear, which is down here, to sRGB. Okay. Reason why is because if we want to save the image directly out of RenderMan, we need to change it over to what's referred to as a color space that is going to be more easily read by image viewers that aren't like Photoshop or After Effects or Premiere. So things like Windows Image Viewer, Mac Image Viewer, those types of things, they can use an sRGB. Now you'll notice that it's darker. So what you'll do is you'll set it to sRGB and you'll compensate with your lighting to make it lighter, okay, to show it up a little bit better. All right, so set it to sRGB and you'll find that when you save this image out of RenderMan, it'll show up exactly how it's supposed to look right here, okay? So make sure you do that, because otherwise I'm sure you guys will notice that when you save an image out of RenderMan, with it being linear, it looks nice here, but then when you save it out and you review it, it actually ends up looking like crap. So, well, not crap, it just looks darker. So just go ahead and switch it over to sRGB and work with it here. Now, when we actually do like batch rendering, we'll leave it on linear. That's because when we do the batch rendering and we put it out into After Effects will read it properly, and that's fine. But since we're not doing that at this stage, we're just going to leave it on sRGB. Okay. So usually I have two screens, so I'm actually going to put this on my other screen, but I'll bring it back over when we need to. All right, so with lighting, this is like a really basic 3-point light setup. Usually I'll have my primary light and my rim lighting and I fill lighting over here. And the point with the lighting that I try to usually get across is that I want to make sure the lighting tells the story that I'm trying to narrate. So if literally it's just me trying to sell a product, then I want to have decent even lighting across the surface with maybe like a nice highlight on one side, and then a little bit of shadowing, but I don't want the shadows to be too dark because then the product may end up getting lost in the background. So maybe let's go ahead and kind of set up some lighting real quick, and we'll just kind of see how this looks. So actually, I'm going to switch over to RenderMan in the renderer. Let me take a second. Okay. And let's go over to RenderMan, render settings. I'll drop down to render option. I'll turn off default light just in case. I don't believe I have another light in the scene. Let me just double check. Nope. Okay, so that's just the default lighting that's in the scene. So as soon as I put in a regular light, it's gonna go back to what it should. So let's go ahead and do, I'm gonna do a rectangle light. You'll see everything went dark. I'm gonna pull this back, make it bigger. There we go. So you can see it kind of popping up right there. You'll notice that when you use this renderer, everything moves really, really slow. So unless you have a really awesome graphics card, I don't recommend using this. Otherwise, it tends to get a little bit annoying. So I'm just kind of doing this just to show you the kind of how it'll change. I'm actually going to switch back over to Viewport 2.0 just so I can move through this a little bit faster. All right, so this is going to be my main light. Make it a little bit bigger. And I'm going to move my intensity up to 5. I'm going to go to refine. And let's go ahead and drop that cone angle down. And then I'm going to also soften that cone angle. It's just going to make the light just a little bit softer for us. Let's go ahead and render real quick. Okay, that's pretty bright. So let's double check this real quick. I want to make sure this looks the same in the renderer. So I'm going to actually go do a preview render and see if it actually looks about the same. Okay, yeah, it looks about the same. Alrighty, so it's a bit hot for my taste. So I'm actually going to move the light back. And this will be a good time to talk about setting up a render camera, because as you move the perspective around, you're going to lose your camera angle that you're kind of going for. So a lot of times I'll go into perspective, go to panels, perspective, and then new. And I'll actually will create a new camera. And this new camera that I've just created is going to be my render camera. So I'm going to go channel box, change persp 1 to main cam. And then what I can do is go to split camera and then basically give a perspective view and a main camera view. And so this is good because then I can move around in my perspective view here, but I can move the render cam wherever I want. So now I can see a little bit more easily. So let's go ahead and get a good angle on this. Okay. So what I did was I just parented the objects together so I could just move all the objects at once. So I basically just parented them to the box right here. And then I want to just take a look in the main camera real quick. So I just clicked in here, I went back to my render view, do a preview render. take a look. There we go. It looks better. Okay. Let's add a little material to the bottle caps. Not attaching the texture I made in the previous video. This is actually a different file, so the UVs aren't the same, but I just want to get a little different material kind of going for it. All right, so we got the material for the cap. I want to take a look at the material for the glass. Attributes. Okay. Okay, take a look. By the way, if you're kind of wondering how to get the catalog up, it's under Window, Catalog right here. You can just pop through all of your images. Okay. And so what I'm kind of noticing here is that I have a nice light here, but I do need to fill in some of this dark area right here. See how it's getting really kind of really dark right there. So I want to fill that in. And then I also want to kind of pop the caps a little bit in the glass right here with a little bit of edge lighting. I'm going to achieve that with a light in the background, a little rim. So these are literally just regular lights. So I'm going to use a disc light. And I'm going to take this and we're going to put a cone angle on it. I'm going to soften this as well. And the reason why I'm doing the softness is basically I just don't want a hard, sharp edge wherever the light is hitting the table, which may not be a significant problem, but I just want to avoid it if I can. So we're going to take a look again. Let's render that again. So you'll see here we're getting a specular highlight right there, which is nice. And a little bit of lightning right there. I think actually I want to go a little bit higher with the intensity. So let's go up to, let's do it 2.2. Just kind of pulling that value out of thin air. I know I want it to be hotter or a little bit warmer here in terms of intensity, but also really kind of want to pull this up as well. So there we go. So that's looking better. Okay, let's go a little bit more. Let's go to a 4. Okay. Also, if we notice that we end up getting the specular a little bit too much, we can pull the specular amount down so it doesn't actually shine as brightly in the reflections, if we need to do that. See, I'm liking that. And so actually this is maybe getting a little bit too bright. So I may actually need to do that. But I am liking the value I'm getting right here because that means when we have the texture on it, we'll actually be able to see that texture. So let's pull specular amount down to, say, a 0.5. And again, this is on this light. And we'll take a look again. And you'll see that this light actually stays the same, or this value stays the same, but this specular amount actually goes down. So it looks good. Okay. Let's go ahead and do another light. I'm going to take this one, duplicate it, and we are going to put this right here, right behind the bottles. Okay. Intensity, I'm going to just bring it back down to like a 1.8. I meant to do 1.8. There we go. So I'm looking to try to highlight a little bit more on the edge and on the bottle cap. So we'll see if that works. There we go. See that? That's nice. I like that a lot. It just kind of pops that just a little bit more. Now you see right here is kind of giving us kind of a bit of a sharper highlight right there. I want to pull that. I want to fix that a little bit. So I'm going to play around with the cone angle and the cone softness. So I'm going to actually make that cone angle a bit tighter. And then I want to pull the softness up more and see if that maybe helps us. There you go. So now it's gone. See the difference? So the reason why I'm taking that away is because that little highlight there is just a bit distracting. Because with this lighting setup, I want the primary light that's going to be casting the shadows to be coming from my main light. I'm not a big fan of having competing shadow directions. I think visually it just gets really distracting. So if you can have like one shadow direction, at least primarily speaking, I think visually that ends up looking a lot nicer. So if you can get away with that, I think that looks better. Okay, so this is 960 by 540, so this is kind of, you know, crap quality. So what we'll need to do is fix that quality a little bit. Let me add one more light, because I think I can maybe do a little bit more filling in this area. And I'm actually going to add the light that I always talk that I hate about, is the dome light, which isn't a bad light. But let me just throw it in here and show what it looks like. So, boom. That's quite intense. All right, so that's not going to work for us. But if I take that intensity and bring it down to like 0.1, the idea is that it just evenly hits everything a little bit. So we'll just preview it just a little bit, go from here to here. Okay, see that? So we're going to go from this to this. It's just kind of lightening up the entire scene. And then also we can look at maybe adding a little bit of color to some of our lights. So this one right here, one thing you can do is enable your temperature, which if you guys are taking photography class, I'm sure Professor Finley and Peacock have talked about temperatures for lighting. The higher the temperature, the bluer the light's going to get. The lower the temperature, the redder the light's going to get. So depending on what you're wanting to go across, you know, it's going to change your color. So let's do 8500 for the main light, and we'll just see what that does for the scene. Okay. It's probably going to turn everything just a little bit blue, which it did. So it strengthened the blue in the background, and it just kind of overall tinted everything. So from green to just a little bit blue on the gray. So, okay. So that's kind of what we're getting. I kind of like to play around with doing temperatures, depending on what kind of mood you want to do for your scene. it tends to be the more sterile the environment, the bluer it's going to get. Also, nighttime scenes, usually you'll kind of temp them blue. Daytime scenes are usually temped a little bit warmer. Later in the day is going to be a little bit redder. Earlier in the day, late morning, like dawn, it may be a little bit warmer. And then also when you're at home, a lot of times lighting at home tends to tint yellow or orange a bit. Not so much with LEDs, because a lot of them just pure white, but like older fluorescent bulbs and stuff tend to go yellow. And a lot of times you'll see bulbs are kind of artificially tinted yellow anyways, because it tends, so I think it's more reminiscent of like candlelight, and it makes it feel a little bit more homely or homey to us. So anyway, that's kind of a little bit of light theory, I guess. So anyway, that's just a little bit blue. Purely is just for an aesthetic choice. So quality wise, let's kind of play around with the quality and clean up the image. So we're going to go into common. I'm going to up it from 540 to 1080. And then I'm going to go under my min and max samples. And I'm just going to go ahead and jump this up to, let's do 540 for my max samples. Depending on the scene, you know, this is what I would play with first to kind of clean up the noise and try to get a good looking shot. And then we can kind of play around with the rest of these samples. As I said in the previous video, depending on how grainy your dark areas get, minimum samples, if you up that a little bit, that can help, as well as pixel variances. Lowering this value to like a 0.001 would help out as well. But just be aware doing this does increase render time, which that's just the game. That's how it works. So I'll take a look at this, up it. You'll automatically see that the image is quite a bit bigger, and it's going to take longer for this to actually render. But you'll see it's going to be cleaner than what we have here. All right. So this picture took like 18 seconds, I think. Yeah, 18 seconds. Upping the resolution and upping the minimum sample or max samples up to 2 minutes and 36 seconds. Quite a large jump. But you will see the quality, though, very, very grainy. Not so grainy. Looks a lot better. So not bad at all. All right. So anyway, yeah. So this is, you know, much nicer quality. Like I said, it takes a little bit of time. There is still noise here, especially in the glass. So that would need to be fixed, and that really is just going to be fixed through upping the max samples. So I had it set to like 540, 512, something like that. You know, you might be going up to like 1024 or 2048, and then also changing the min samples to something like 32, and then going up to like 64 if you need to. And what that's going to be doing is just really going into the darker areas or areas that may not be getting sampled that much as this image is rendering, and it's forcing each one of those pixels to resample and try to get a more accurate view or more accurate render. So anyway, those would be some ways you could try to clean this up a little bit. Okay. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So let me try to render this again to see if I can get a little bit nicer image out of it. We'll take a look at that, and then that should be about it. Like I said, with the lighting here, just kind of set it up. using basically 3 lights and then a dome light that's set really, really low. If you wanted to have some fun with this, the dome light actually itself takes a color map. If you wanted to put really honestly any image into it, but it's made to more work for what's called an HDR image, which is a high dynamic range image. But you can actually kind of load whatever images in here you want. And it will wrap that around the actual orb or the sphere, and those will actually show up in your reflections. So let me go ahead and run this real quick, and you'll see. Maybe you'll see it actually show up in some of the reflections. It feels a little bit brighter, I suppose. So yeah. Okay. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end the video here, and then yeah, that's about it.